Okay, so this is a bit of a quick tutorial on how to try and set up OpenGL, basically using GLFW and GLAD, which should show up at some point, I'm sure, on, I don't know if this will show up now, on Ubuntu 24.04. I'm running like an Intel like iGPU thing, but hopefully this should work regardless what your graphic setup is on Ubuntu. So first things first, I'm going to be sort of following this pretty good tutorial by Joey DeVries. It's online at learnopengl.com, just there. And you can actually download as well. I've got like a PDF version of it, which he also provides free of charge, which is great. And so I'll just sort of be mixing and matching between this and between some of the like documentation for GLFW and stuff like that, just to try and get this whole thing set up. So I've actually sort of set it up here, but what we're gonna do is try and, I guess, redo it from scratch again. So let me take this existing thing, do like old, and let's try to actually do this from scratch. So learn OpenGL, and I'll try and, go through the book maybe in some other tutorials, but for now we're just trying to get the very, very basics. Like we're not even gonna render like a window, or maybe we will, but we're gonna do everything up to rendering a window, and that'll be its own separate video probably. So just to start, you want some sort of, directory obviously, and I've just named this one Learn OpenGL. And what I'll do is I'll make two folders in here. One I'll call source, and that's where I'll put all my like C or C++, source files. The other one I'll call include, and that will have all of my header files and stuff. And then I'm gonna put another folder here called docs, which isn't really documentation so much as it's there's like basically just pretty useful information that we can try and fall back onto throughout the tutorial, and that's what it'll be. So let me put that in over here as well. And that's basically all we need to get started. So what we're going to do now is navigate over to VS Code over here. See that we've got, well, we've got to open up a folder, right? So let's open up the folder that we just made. Documents, Learn OpenGL, open that. It's not going to ask me if we trust. Okay, cool. And then what we can do once we're in here is go to source, and I'll just make a new file, main.cpp. And in here, just, to make sure that we've got I don't know, some sort of like compilation working, I'll just make a very basic go include IO stream. I'm a C++ noob, by the way. I really don't know what I'm doing outside of, I'm basically falling on my C knowledge here. So into argc and then char argv, I think. Hopefully that's the same. And then what I'll do is, I believe it's standard cout to try and do stuff on standard IO. And so I'll say hello world, and then standard and line to try and finish off the line, and return 0. If you don't know, returning an error code of 0 usually means that your compilation or whatever you were trying to run didn't have any problems, basically. So what we'll do just to start is, I don't have a CMake, that's right. That's the other thing we need. So I'll go over here and I'll make what's called a CMake lists.txt. And that's basically a file. It looks like VS Code. Okay, it's done some stuff. So I have the extension actually for CMake installed. Let's see what I do have installed just to see. So I've got this C++, C++ thing from Microsoft, an extension pack, some themes, CMake tools, and that's basically all you need. The rest of this is like not really. I don't think this one even works, but what you might want as well is maybe make files if you're on Ubuntu as well. Just because I'm not going to be using some of the other stuff that they provide, I think make is it's fine, works for me. And so yeah, you might just want to make sure that you have these extensions, and then once you've got that figured out, hopefully when you make some sort of make file, then it will recognize, hey, there's a make file, and then try to do some stuff with it. And then once you've got that figured out, there's just some boilerplate in terms of, I think it's CMake minimum required. That's the first line that you'll have. And so that should be version 3.15 up to version 4.1. And if what I'm not doing, if what I'm doing doesn't make sense, then I'm actually going to try and direct you towards a resource that helped me. Let's see where it was. It was over here somewhere. Yes, let me try and copy that over here. So this is like a sort of like a book that goes through. It's an introduction to modern CMake, exactly as it says. And there's a PDF document here as well that you can get. And so this just goes over like some basic syntax around like CMake, how it works, what it is, like how to set it up, and like, you know, some just like pretty basic sort of like try and give you a sense. Like it's even then it's a bit complicated, but yeah, if you just aren't sure why I'm doing this, I went to the basics section here. And then first thing they did is they set up a CMake minimum required thing. So that'll tell CMake, okay, this is the version that I want to use. And so as you can see, I've literally just copy pasted what they've got going. And so that'll basically say anything from 3.15 up to 4.1 is targeted by this project. So if someone has one of those versions in between installed, then it should just work. The next thing I want to do is, I think, try to make executable? No, something executable. Add executable. So, oh, sorry, I guess after that we want to name the project. So my project is called LearnOpenGL, and I think it's version 1. I'll say 0.1 because it's not really anything just yet. So that's fine. Looks like that's working. There's some compilation errors. It's okay because we're not done yet. And so what I'll do is I'll add an executable, excuse me, and that'll be let's make it learn. That's what we'll call it. And we'll try to put we'll specify the build folder and all that stuff in a second. But what I'll do is I'll say learn, and I'll say that I want this to be right, source.main.cpp, source/main.cpp. That's what we should build. It looks like it'll do that for us. And so now a quick check of CMake. I mean, that's okay. Seems like it's figured itself out. So assuming that you have some sort of CMake stuff set up, then you'll get this build dialog down the bottom here. If you don't, maybe I'll try and answer some comments if you have any concerns. But if I press build over here, what it'll do is it will see, okay, I've got this main.cpp file. It's going to look for that in the source directory because that's what my source files that I've specified are. And then it's going to try and build that and put it over here. And so that's the learn file now. And now if I try running, it'll go to a terminal here and I get hello world, which is what I had over here. So that's all good. That means that a very basic sense, it looks like CMake is doing what we want it to. So next thing we want to do is get GLFW and GLAD. And what the heck are those? Great question. So GLFW is basically like it's a way of making windows and stuff. Like, see how Firefox over here is in like a window, and like I can move it around and I can resize it and all this other stuff, and, you know, maximize, minimize, whatever. And like it has, you know, mouse and keyboard stuff, which is registered. Like if I press this, it'll actually do something in the browser. So that's all thanks to like some sort of window manager sort of thing. And so that's what GLFW tries to accomplish. There's other alternatives, but GLFW is what I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is just download this and just chuck it into my root directory there. So going through the documentation, because we'll get to GLAD in a second, and I probably don't need this right now, actually. I'll just keep one of them open. So what I'll do here is just going through the documentation. There's some boilerplate for actually setting up GLFW, but we want to actually first install it. So how do we install it? HTML documentation, and then from here, I think that they have a compiling GLFW. We're doing it sort of in reverse. Usually you'd write the program and then you try compiling, but I want to make sure the compilation works before I write the program. And so what I'll do is go here, and first thing we want to do is we have CMake set up, so we're on a Unix-like system, so we've got CMake installed. That's its own. I'm not going to do a tutorial on how to install CMake. This is just OpenGL specifically. And so what you can do then, once you have CMake installed, is get the dependencies for GLFW. So that's libwayland, whatever that stuff is basically. And then what we're going to do after that is try to generate the build files for GLFW from source. So putting that into practice, if we go over here, I'm going to, I just double clicked by the way to try and extract. So that'll just open that here. And then what I'll do is make a new terminal over here. As you can see, I'm in that folder. And then what it wants me to do to yeah, basically you saw how I built this project, right? We're gonna do basically the same thing, but from the terminal and for like GLFW specifically. So I go CMake -s, and then I think dot should just be down here, and then we go -b build. And so I haven't put spaces there, which is maybe confusing you, but I think generally speaking, when you use like one of these command line options, it just looks for whatever's after. So you could do it with spaces, or you could remove the spaces, and it doesn't really matter. But what it'll basically do is it'll look for the CMake lists file in this root folder here. So if I go ls, you can see that there's a CMake lists file. So what it'll do then is it'll say, hey, let me read through everything in here. Do the default thing, because I haven't actually specified anything specific. And then it'll actually put whatever it needs to build in the build folder, which doesn't exist yet, but it will in a second. So CMake -s -b build. And so it's doing some stuff. It's, built some files and it's chucked them in this build folder. And if we go ls, indeed we have a build folder now. So what you can do now is there's one of two ways to do it. This is where the guide is useful to try and just remember how to do stuff. I think it says how to run CMake, sorry, is what we'll be interested in. So once you've actually built the thing, which is, as you can see, the same command, then you can actually like install whatever it is that you just made using any one of these commands. So if I go, well, I could do actually, there's a few ways of doing it, but I'll let you read through that. So I'm just going to choose one. I'll do CMake --install dot, and that'll be in the build directory, or from the source directory. I can do CMake --install build, which is actually what I'm going to do. So I'll go CMake --install build. I think it will need sudo privileges. We'll see in just a second. It does. So let's try sudo. And then this double exclamation just tries to, well, it just runs the previous thing that you did. So I'm just doing basically sudo, then all this stuff. And that should now ask for my password. And that still didn't do anything. That's interesting. No such file or directory, really? Is that right? Oh, maybe I didn't actually. Let's go cd build. Let's try doing it from the build directory. Let's go. Okay, let's just try make install in that case. I think that might work for us. So yeah, it doesn't look like CMake knew what to do. That's a bit interesting. I'm actually curious why it was failing here. No such file directory. How is that possible? It's like, it's right there. Anyway, so as you can see, this is making the, the GLFW binaries and stuff. So once that's done, then it will still struggle to do that. So let's try sudo with the same thing as before. So it's already made that. Okay, so I basically just did make install instead of doing CMake. I don't know why CMake was having trouble with that, but in any case, yeah, you basically, what the install thing does, because you can see that it actually like built all of these targets, but then all this is doing is, as you can see, it's literally just copying whatever I just made into the user local lib folder, the local include folder. So it's just actually putting it into a place where my operating system will be like, oh, okay, cool. There is the library. I can now use it. And so that's done. So what we can do now is, I think, just delete that folder. So rm, it's kind of just going to do rf, but we're just going to do it on that folder. And that's gone now. And now I'm also going to remove the GLFW folder, zip itself. And we've got a clean directory again. So that's nice. What we can now do, because we've gotten installed, is try and tell CMake here for our project, hey, we actually have that thing. So how do we do that? We go, I think it's find package. And this will basically look for these .CMake files somewhere on the computer, and once it finds them, and it's like it'll have some sort of like locations, because this isn't the CMake like library itself. This isn't like GLFW like over here. That's CMake. So CMake has its own like, okay, there is this package that I'm looking for, and it will be in these positions, and then this thing will tell me where to actually look for all this stuff. So how we do that is we say, okay, find package GLFW, and pay attention, it says 3 at the end. I put GLFW just on its own without the 3, and I was really confused. So make sure you get the 3. And then we say, I think, version 3.4, which is what we've just installed. Maybe you could see it, 3.4. And we go required, because we need that to actually do anything. So that's fine. Looks like there weren't any errors there. I mean, we'll find out in a second. And then what else I can do is, I think that's target link libraries, I think. And then we go learn, and then we say GLFW3, pretty sure. And so that will basically, once we've got this like package library thing, when it's trying to make the learn executable, it will say, okay, make sure to also add this because we'll need this. And so that's done. Now what we can do is, I believe, GLAD, which you go over. I think we basically just skip through all of the stuff that it says over here. Yeah, and then we went to the build application part specifically, and that'll be what we do in a second, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, making the source file. Yeah, that's like basically what we're gonna do. Yeah, it says GLFW here. Did I do that as well? No, sorry. So yeah, it's GLFW over there, but it's GLFW3 over here. It's a bit confusing, but that's fine. We're not actually, yeah, okay. I'll get to that in a second. But basically what we do now is add GLAD. GLAD is basically, I don't really want to get too into it, but it takes the stuff that OpenGL needs from your graphics card. So your graphics card will be like, hey, there's this function for OpenGL, there's this function for OpenGL, there's this function for OpenGL. It's all very messy, but it has all of them. And what GLAD does is it makes it really easy for you to just pull whatever functions your graphics card has available at the time, and then just try and call them in your code. And so that probably doesn't make much sense. There are better resources for trying to figure out how it does that. I am not that person. But what we're going to do is show you how to install GLAD. So what we do is go to the web service here. And from here, we want to select, I'm going to be trying to target OpenGL 3.3. So this is on C++, that's fine. GL version 3.3. And I want to go for the, not compatibility, but the core profile, because that's Modern OpenGL. And then from here, I also want to specify that I want a header only version of GLAD. So I think that's everything. I don't want any extensions or anything. I just want to make the basics. So we'll press generate. This will take a second, and then we've got this zip file that we can download, and I will put that over here as well. So we do that, we go back over here, and we've got a .zip file. What does that have? It has this, which has literally one file in there, one folder and one file. So we're going to take this include, Control X, so that's cutting it. If you prefer, you can right click and then press cut. And then I'm going to go into this root folder, Control V or paste. That'll merge into our existing include folder. Now I've got a GLAD folder. Now I've got gl.h, and we can now delete this folder because it has nothing in it, and we can delete that because it has nothing in it. And now we go back here. Sorry, no, we don't do it like that. We go back here, and what I want to do is, I have to think now. I think it's include directories, maybe. Does it include directories? Let's try it. Let's try include directories, and we'll go just include. Or maybe we could go project source directory, which is basically just wherever this project's source directory is. I think that should work, maybe. I don't know. We'll see if it errors or not in just a second. But yeah, what we can do now is we've got this hello world stuff. Let's, get rid of that for now. And what we want to do is a few things. First, we want to include GLAD. Yes, gl.h, fantastic. So that is now showing up. It looks like that worked. And then what we also want to include is I think GLF glfw/glfw3.h, and that also is showing up. So this one, as you'll see, if I press, I'm using Vim, but you could just right click this and then go to definition. You'll see it's user local include glfw. So that's where we put that from. That's my old tutorial, sorry. From here, right? It's the same file. And then what we can also do is go here, go to definition for GLAD, and it's pulling it from this include folder just here, right? Just with my CMake stuff. So right there, that's where it's looking for it. So that's all good. That's working. One more thing. This took me a minute to try and figure out. But if you go into the docs over here, and then you go to, well, this isn't the docs, it's just the landing page. But if we go down to the docs, which are in the wiki, and then you go from the wiki to the C part, and then from the C part you go to header only, because we pressed that. What you want to do is add this line over here. If you're using OpenGL, if you're using Vulkan, you probably don't need this video, but you put, I think, VK or something. And so we'll plug that in just before GLAD. And one more thing to note is you want to include GLAD before you include GLFW. Like the actual ordering of these two include statements does matter. If you flip it, it won't work. So we're going to go define GLAD GL, I think it was GLAD GL implementation. And so that's all good. And so what I'm going to try and do now is follow some of the, oh, it's the wrong one again. Oh, that's the wrong one again. Where are we? There we are. Try and follow some of the introduction to the API stuff that they had getting started. So if we go here, we've included that, it's all good. We've included GLAD, all good. We don't need to do that. So what we'll do first is if GLFW not initialized. So that is a function that you're trying to call. Some of these are pointers to functions, so I'll try to, emphasize that. But basically what we want to do first is just go if not GLFW init. So if the GLF init thing doesn't work, like if we error out from that, because if the function fails, it will return false or something, which I guess is 0. Then we want to know that it actually failed. So we'll do standard C error, which I didn't know about until this tutorial, means error. So we can then say failed to initialize GLFW. And then we can standard end line. And then return error GLFW init. And that doesn't exist. I'm going to make that enum in just a second. So enum sorry. I'll call these errors. That's a bad name actually. Let's just do that. So that's all good. So I just oh sorry, I should make that equal to 1 or something. So that's not just the return code. Oh well, I guess what I could do is program success. No, I'm too lazy to actually do this properly. But yeah, basically that's one thing, and then once that works, then what we want to do after that is over down the line here somewhere we'll terminate the GLFW instance. And in between here is where the magic happens. So first things first, let's make an error callback. That was pretty useful. I should have done that last time. It took so much longer without it. So just trust me when I say do it. Error callback. And they're using C by the looks of it because they use fprintf, but it's basically the same thing. It's fine. Int error const char description. And so what I want to do is standard C error. I'm going to be using that from now on. And we can say error, and then we can say what the error actually was. End of line, sorry, like that. And we don't need to return because it's just, printing out, so that's fine. So whenever anything happens, what we'll want to do actually is specify this error callback. So we go GLFW set, I think, error callback, and that will go error callback. And as you can see, I didn't put, you know how I put over here these two brackets? I did not do that because I want to point to the function itself. I don't want to execute it. I want to point to it. So that's good. Actually, let's do that. There's probably fine, actually. Yeah, okay. Or maybe I should do it like here. I don't know. I don't know if it'll work if I do it there. Let's find out. Sorry about that. And so what we can do then is follow this tutorial for the rest, I guess. So we've done that. We've set the error callback. I think honestly I will just maybe put it here. I don't, let's see if it works over there. I actually haven't tried it. I did it over here before, but that's fine. Next thing we want to do is create a window and some context. So over here we're going to go GLFW window. It's going to be a pointer to one. Window is going to be equal to GLFW create window or something. Okay, that worked. 800 by 600. We want it to be called LearnOpenGL. And we don't want to specify any specific monitor. I think, what is it? The monitor to use for full screen mode. That's fine. We don't need to specify that. And then this is the window whose context. Yeah, that's fine. We don't need to specify that either. At least not right now. This is a very basic demo, okay? And so now if we say if window is equal to null, it didn't actually get made, then we can go standard the error failed to create GLFW window and line. And we'll go return error GLFW window. Sorry about that. And we'll go over here to try and get that. Like 2%, that's fine. So far so good. Otherwise, we'll have actually made the window correctly. And so what we want to do now is also specify which version we're using. So we'll go, once we've got this window, we'll say, okay, GLFW window int, and we want to use GLFW major, version major, that'll be 3. Minor version is also 3. And then we want to also specify the profile type, which is core profile. So window hint GLFW profile W core profile. Yeah, okay, cool. I love fuzzy find. So I guess maybe I should do that before. Is that a thing? Should I really do that before? Wasn't hello window. Okay, first he inits, and then he does all that stuff, and then he actually, okay, yeah, all right, so fine, we'll do that first. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay, cool, so that's good. So we're trying to tell it to make 3.3 core profile window, and so if it actually doesn't make that, then we're like, oh no. But if it does make that, then what we want to do is, do we need to do that? Okay, yeah, we do. All right, so GLFW make context current, and then we specify the window that we just made that's working. And then we're going to do some GLAD stuff. So this tutorial is actually using a slightly different approach because they're using version 1 of GLAD. If you might have had key and elf eyes, you might have noticed that I'm using GLAD version 2, right? And so the only difference there is that some of the, well, the only difference I know of is that some of the functions are different. So if we go GLAD load GL, sorry, we want to go int window is equal to, and I'm actually going to jump over to GLAD's, what do you call it? Yeah, documentation. So make context current, that's the last thing we did, right? Int version is equal to GLAD load GL. And from here, you're going to specify GLFW get proc address. Looks good. Do I know what that does? No, I don't. And then if version is equal to 0, i.e. the thing didn't work, then we're gonna go see error failed to initialize OpenGL context, which is kind of bad. And then we go return error glad init. And I will, try to paste that over here just to save some time. Come on. Didn't really save that much time, did we? So that's fine. Oh, sorry, I called it window. I shouldn't do that. Version. Excuse me just a second. All right, I'm back. Version is equal to that, and we do that stuff. And then what we want to do after that is print that we successfully loaded. So standard see out now for the first time. Loaded OpenGL, and then we'll specify the version. So I think that's glad version major version, and I guess a dot glad version minor version and a line, and that should work. And so all of that to now get the file. Let's try building it. Does it build? It built without a hitch. That's a good sign. If we now try running it, then it's had some trouble. Okay, that's fine. We have to have a context version major. That's right. And then context version minor. I guess that's OpenGL profile. So let's try that one more time. Bismillah. And now we get loaded OpenGL 4.6. So basically what that means is this program over here was able to get the function definitions for OpenGL on my computer, and then open them and then save them for like some sort of way for it to read, and then figure out that I'm running version 4.6 specifically. And so yeah, that's a great sign.